Hello, co-creator. I'm very happy that I'll be interviewing right now John Demartini. He's a specialist. He's one of the teachers that was featured in The Secret. And today we're going to speak about soulmate, twin flames, how can we attract our soulmate, and all this crunchy, good stuff. So I'm excited to introduce you to John. He's right now in Hawaii, Maui, and we're going to discuss soulmates. Here we go. Hello, John. How are you doing tonight? Today in Maui, actually.
I'm doing great. It's morning here. It's night there. We're 12 hours on the other side of the earth.
Amazing what technology can do. But right now, I
And,
would like your input on soulmate. What is a soulmate? Do we all have one?
well, I said on our last interview that every individual has a set of values, a set of priorities that they live their life by. And whatever is highest on their value and highest on the priority, they tend to create. So everybody creates their soulmate according to the hierarchy of their value. That's what they're looking for. They also have a search image based on all of the experiences they've had with a relationship. And anything that tends to support their values, they tend to put into a composite image that they're searching for. And anything that's challenged their values, they tend to avoid. So they have a built-in kind of a filter trying to find this person that's going to fulfill them. But their values are dictating the form. Now, what's interesting is if for some reason you have had a series of relationships in the past that have been very painful to you, very challenging to you, you will accumulate associations with that to avoid that in the future. And as a result of it, even though you say you want this and you want that in a relationship, you want this, if you don't know what your real values are and you don't really know what you're really about, you will actually be seeking something that's not true to you and then frustrate yourself because you'll keep creating what your values dictate. And if you've had pain dealing with being one-on-one with a relationship for periods, you will automatically disperse all the traits you're looking for in a relationship into many people. Now, can I give you a story, an example?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story, a funny story. I was flying from Houston, Texas to Las Vegas, and I either get on first or last on a plane. If I get on first, I greet people. If I get on last, I make my entrance. And so when I got on this plane this time, I was last, and I came in down the aisle. I waved to a couple of people I knew because I was getting ready to go to speak in Las Vegas to thousands of doctors. There was a beautiful 27-year-old, blonde, tall, gorgeous woman sitting next to me in the seat I was to sit in. Now, without a doubt, it's always a little inspiring to have a beautiful person next to you.
Yeah.
There's just something about it. I don't know. You probably know if you get on a plane and it happens. So there's this beautiful woman. I said, "Hi, who are you?" And she says, my name is Tina." And she said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "Well, my name is John." I said, "Tina, what do you do?" She said, "I'm a cosmetologist. I do hair and makeup for celebrities at the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas." I said, "Great." She said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I travel the world and I do seminars." And she said, "Oh." And I said, "Tina, what are you looking for in your life? What is your dream right now? What's your objectives in life?" And she said, "Right now I'm looking for my soulmate." And that's not uncommon for 27-year-old girl. And I said, "Great. How would you like to meet your soulmate today on this flight, this evening?" And she kind of looked at me like I was presumptuous, like, "Who in the heck are you?" And I said, "Seriously?" She said, "Well, I don't know. What does that entail?" I said, "Well, it's just answering a few questions. I can help you get your soulmate." So she said, "Well, okay, what kind of questions?" I said, "Well, what are you looking for?" And she said, "I'm looking for somebody that's really, really intelligent." And I started writing down on the little ticket packet. I started writing down, okay, intelligence. And I said, "What else are you looking for?" She said, "I'm looking for somebody that's got lots of money." And I wrote down in there, and I'm thinking, yeah, well, that's good. And then she said, "Well, the next thing I'm looking for is somebody that's got a sense of humor." And I said, "Great." I wrote that down. It says, "Next thing I'm doing is somebody that's willing to travel." And I wrote that down. She says, "I'm looking for somebody that's good looking." I wrote that down. And we wrote 22 different things down that she was looking for. And then I said, "All right, here we go now. We're going to find our soulmate." This highly intelligent person, nothing is missing in your life. What form and what person is taking that on right now? She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, who in your life is highly intelligent like you're looking for?" She says, "Well, my boss. He's brilliant. He's absolutely a genius. He runs the company and he's just brilliant." I said, "Can you see that you have around you a man that has high intelligence that you interact with?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, and who's got the sense of humor? Well, I know who that is. That's the guy that cuts hair next to me. He's this gay guy, and he basically keeps me in stitches and laughing all day. I said, can you see you have a man in your life that's got the sense of humor you're looking for? She goes, yeah. I said, and who's got tons of money? And she goes, God, I know who that is. That's my boss again. He's a billionaire. And last year he helped me get a new car and helped me go on a trip to Hawaii. And I said, great. Can you see that you're not missing that? She goes, yeah, this is interesting. I said, and who is good looking? She says, well, I know who that is. That's my ex-boyfriend. And I said, well, what about him? I said, well, we don't dating anymore, but occasionally I go to social functions and I need him there because he's good looking. I just tell him not to speak because he's really dense. And I said, so can you see you have that? And who is it likes to travel? Well, I know a guy that basically likes to travel. Sometimes he goes with it. There's 3 or 4 of our girls that go off on trips, and sometimes he's there and he kind of takes care of stuff that guys do. I said, can you see that every single thing you're looking for is in your life in the present? She goes, wow, I never did it. We went through 22 different things, and she found out that everything she was searching for was in her life, but it was according to her values. Now, what she was striving for was this kind of fantasy image guy. And she says, well, will I ever get it in one man? I said, no, they don't make men like that. They don't make guys that have everything like that. They just have guys that have parts of those things. She says, well, what do? I want to get at one guy. I said, well, listen, because of the past and the relationships you've had in the past that are painful, you have made sure that you have dispersed it because in the relationships you've had in the past, you've had painful experiences. So let's go to each one and I'll show you what I mean. So we went to the last one that she had a relationship for about 8 months with. And she says, yeah, he was very good looking. He was extremely wealthy, but he called me all throughout the day and was always worried where I was and didn't want me to go anywhere without me being there or the guy being there. And she says, it was just, I felt smothered and I felt like he was control freak. And I said, well, can you see, you swore you wouldn't want to do that again. She says, that's for sure. I said, well, so can you see that you wanted a wealthy guy and you wanted a nice looking guy, but you wanted to make sure it wasn't where they trapped you and you didn't feel smothered. She goes, yeah. So you unconsciously moved it where you got a wealthy and intelligent guy where they're now helping you, but you're not smothered. You can come and go when you want. And they're actually paying you to do that. She goes, wow, that's really true. I said, what about the guy before that? What did you date? Well, this guy was very good looking, but I couldn't trust him. He was always off with other women, and I just didn't want to deal with it, and I just didn't like that. And so that didn't work out. I said, can you see right now that you've got a good looking guy when you need him, but it doesn't matter if he's with somebody else? She goes, wow, that's true. And I went through each of the past relationships and showed her how the pains of those made her change her values so she could create, as a powerful creator, what she was looking for. And she literally manifested the soulmate in the variety of forms. So here's the summary. The soulmate is always in a form of either one or many. And if you are in more pain being with one, you will then filter it out into the many so you have the option to go home and be by yourself. Because she didn't want to be tracked. She wanted to have the freedom to go with her friends. She wanted to have her own company. And the first guy I met it where she didn't have her company because he was expecting her to do things that which undermined her business. So she really had on her values, I want to have independence. I want to have my own business. I want to be able to go home when I want to. I don't want to be smothered. I want to be able to make my own money and have my own life and go where I want to go. And so she was manifesting according to her true values exactly what she was getting. And she just didn't realize it because she had injected the fantasy values of books and other friends instead of her own values. And so the soulmate is always present. It's never missing. And the master lives in a world of transformation, never the illusions of gain and loss. So that's what I'm describing the soulmate. The soulmate is always there, but we don't honor it. Now, I always say whatever you're looking for in a soulmate, you'll also attract its opposite. Because every human being has both sides, and they always have the traits nice and mean and kind and cruel, etc. So you don't want to set up a fantasy and an unrealistic expectation on a soulmate, which will automatically be self-defeating because you won't find a one-sided person. You'll always find a two-sided person. So once I communicated with her, I then did the Demartini method on those men in the past to dissolve the pains associated with that and find out how it served her. Because it's never what happens to her, it's how she perceives it. So I helped her see a different perception. When she did, she cleared all the emotional baggage I could in a 2.5 hour to 3 hour flight. And when we landed, she was like kind of in a different state. She kind of gave me a hug. She said, wow, I'd like to be able to keep in touch with you. I said, well, yeah, I'll have an email. Here's my email address. So she went on her way. 3 weeks later, she emailed me, sent a picture of a tall guy from Israel, big guy, who travels a lot, has got lots of money, is good looking, loves that she's independent, and will see her periodically and rendezvous and pay for her to rendezvous to travel, which he loves doing. I know that's because I've done this long enough. We're working with people. That's the reason I wrote the book Heart of Love for this purpose, because I have all this in the book. And what I did is I said, can you see that you were empowered the entire time and you were creating it, but now once we shifted your value system, you now manifested it in one manner. And it wasn't everything, but it was now a functional relationship. Well, I don't know. I haven't talked to her or sent her an email and gotten back and forth with her probably a year now. But for all those times, up until about a year ago, and this was about 4 or 5 years ago when I met her, she had this guy. So the soulmate is manifestable according to the hierarchy of your values. You just got to know those values. That's why in my book, The Heart of Love, I go through to help people determine that. And when they do, they go, oh my God, no wonder I have it the way I have it. Because otherwise people beat themselves up thinking there's something wrong with them when they don't have it. But the truth is, there's always something magnificent about them. They just didn't realize their power. And they're worthy of love no matter what they do. They just are creating love in the form that really matches their value, and they don't know it.
So you're saying that as soon as you finally see that you're a lovable human being and you have completed some of your past and reopened your heart, the right person shows up immediately according to those values? Or
Well, the right people are in your life the whole time.
They're already there. But how about in one person, one form, all of it?
As long as there's more pain with being with one person in your past than many, you'll keep dispersing it and say you want your soulmate, but in reality, you're unconsciously making sure you don't get it. But if you are able to see the blessings of all the relationships and how they basically gave you guidance and gave you feedback and helped you be who you are, and now do not infatuate with freedom and fantasies about relationships, the soulmate's available to you and they'll manifest very quickly.
Does soulmates mean that there is some work that you're doing in common, that it is a person that is complementary to you, that it helps you to be of even greater service on this planet, or what is exactly, because we're a bit messed up between soulmate, twin flames, ideal partner.
In ancient theology, in astrotheology, the soulmate represented this goes back to the early Greeks and the Gnostic writings after the Christian era. The soulmate was, in the Greek writings, they believed that from the center of the galaxy to our solar system, a spark of fire from the central fire of the sun emanated from the central sun to our solar system and to our Earth. And they imagined this being a spark. And so they saw that as twin flames, symbolically. And that's the soul. So this is an astrotheological construct that goes back into the early Greek writings. So back to Plato and Aristotle and these writings even before that. So this construct, our soulmate is the person who complements us and helps us grow the most. But the thing is we don't grow by getting only things that support us. We grow most when we get both support and challenge. So the real soulmate is the one that gives us a perfect complementation of support and challenge. We have similarities and differences. The ancient Greeks said, if we see more similarities and differences, we're infatuated. If we see more differences and similarities, we're resentful. But if we have a perfect blend of similarities and differences, agreements and disagreements, we have the true love, which is maximizing our growth process. Because if we get nothing but support, we stay juvenile and infatuated and blind. If we get nothing but challenge, we become precocious and in a sense withdrawn. But if we put the two together, we have an oscillating lovemaking, which keeps us enduring a patient relationship. So that's the secret, and that's why our soulmate is always a combination of things we're looking for and also things that make sure we grow and challenge us. And we attract people that have complementary opposite value systems many times. So we're seeking that which supports our values, but we also attract that which challenges our values. Because the things we need are also the things that are not where we're masterful. It's where we actually have low areas on our values, so we can attract somebody we can delegate utilitarian purposes to. So we're actually we're attracting we can delegate stuff to.
The thing is that, as some speakers are saying, is that you're attracting your opposite, and then through time, unfortunately, then some people don't grow together, and then ultimately you grow with different values and you're apart. So how do you actually maintain that relationship so it grows in a beautiful soulmate relationship, or is it just supposed to be natural and the way it
what
is?
happens is it's not what they do, it's your perception of what they do. In the book The Heart of Love, I have a chapter specifically on how to keep balanced your perception of support and challenge. See, if you get more support than challenge, you get bored. You get too many, it's too much the same, and if any two people are exactly the same, one's not necessary. If you get too much challenge, you get burned out. So a maximum relationship occurs right between boredom and burnout. They got to oscillate. Too much boredom, too much burnout doesn't work. You want to go on. So what you have to do is learn to ask the questions. When you see things that challenge you, how is this supporting me? And when you see things that supporting you, how is this challenging me? You have to be able to, in your own self, learn the art of keeping that balanced. Then there's the Demartini method, which is a method I have that I think we mentioned, that's about how to see that what you see in them is inside you, and how to own those traits, and how to not judge them. Because if you judge them, it's because they're reminding you of parts you're not loving about yourself. And there's also an exercise on how to determine their values and your values, and how to link those values so you have more to communicate with, and you have more dialogue instead of alternating monologues where you're speaking and they're not listening, and then they're speaking and you're not listening. So there's 3 chapters in that book specifically for that: the soulmate, the communication of values, determination of values, and the Demartini method. 4 chapters actually, to help people specifically get that job done, to keep it centered so they can maintain a magnificent relationship.
So when two single people meet, though, there is the physical attraction, there is the chemistry, the alchemy kicking in, and sometimes we mix the signals of our soul with lust. How do we dissociate those two? How can we really follow our soul in this process?
If you have to ask the question, it's not the soulmate.
Got it.
Okay, because at the soul, there's no questioning. At the senses, I always say at the level of the soul, there's nothing but love and certainty. But when we're in the senses, we oscillate between I can't live with them, I can't live without them, when they support and challenge you, or would challenge and support you. So what happens is, when you first get with somebody, the way you know you're infatuated is that you start to sacrifice the things that are important to you to be with them, and you start fearing the loss of them. If you have the fear of loss of them, you're infatuated, because that's a withdrawal symptom from dopamine addiction. And you're actually, whenever you're trying to be somebody you're not in order to be with them, to keep them, you're not being yourself. And you will accumulate moments of resentment that you will eventually download on that person and punish them with, because of all the things you felt you sacrificed because you weren't able to be yourself during your infatuation phase. And then they'll be in the pit, and then you'll want to change them, and this is the undermining of the relationship. So the key is to be able to do, when you're doing what you love and loving what you do and being true to yourself, you have the highest probability of attracting the mate. When you try to be somebody you're not to be with them, you're automatically undermining, because now you've got to get back to being yourself and hope that they still love you. The wisest thing to do is be inspired by your own life and empower your own life. You want to ask this question when you meet a guy or a girl that's really hot. You want to ask, what's in it for them to be with me? And you want to empower all areas of your life. That's why I mentioned that in the Breakthrough Experience book. If you're not empowered in all areas of your life, you're not offering something. And any area of your life that you're disempowered in is an area they're going to control. So you want to make sure that you're empowered in your own life, so you have a package to do. Because they're never committed to you in a relationship. That's a fantasy that people live stuck with. They're only committed to fulfilling their values. And once you realize that, you have to offer them a value in their value systems to be able to be something that they still want to be with. If you don't do that, and you take them for granted, and you start projecting your values onto them and expect them to live according to your life and your values, you start undermining the relationship, and you're pushing them out the door. See, the ABCs of negativity, anger and aggression, blame and betrayal, criticism and challenge, are a byproduct of when you project unrealistic expectations on them to live in your fantasy world and in your value system. You got to find out what theirs are. You got to honor them. You got to learn to communicate yours in terms of theirs, so you get what you want through them. And in the process of doing that, you get to experience the love. But always keep it balanced. That's the only way to keep a stable relationship. People who have been married for 68 years, they understand that. People at first, I met an 84-year-old woman, and she came in as a patient of mine many years ago. And she saw me arguing with my secretary at the time. And we were sitting there having a little argument about some stuff that she was typing. And I didn't know the lady had come in as a patient. I turned around and I put on a mask. Oh, hi, good morning. And I realized, I'll get back to you later, to the girl. And we were having kind of a stiff. And so in the process, I said, hi, good morning. And we walked back to the adjusting room. And she said, relationships, they're such a lovely thing. They're so great. And I said, oh, why do you say that? She says, well, I've been married for many, many years. And it takes about 60 years to have a good relationship. And I said, why do you say that? She said, well, the first 10 years, you want out. The second 10 years, he wants out. The third 10 years, you both want out. The fourth 10 years, you sneak out. The fifth 10 years, you say, oh, what the hell, the kids and all. And the sixth 10 years, she says, it starts to get good. And I said, why does it get good after 60 years? She says, well, by then, since you get married in your 20s usually, she said, by then you're in your 80s. And by then you can't see them, you can't smell them, you can't hear them, you can't taste them, you can't feel them, and it gets good. You don't have to deal with them. You're kind of blind and they look good.
Wonderful lady. So true. Well, apparently love's I heard many times that love gets us blind, so
Well, actually, infatuation is what blinds us, not love. True love sees a balance and keeps your eyes open and appreciation in their values and your values. Infatuation, which activates dopamine and kephalon, endorphins and oxytocin, that's what makes you blind. When you're infatuated, they consume space and time in your mind and run you. When you're resentful, they consume space and time in your mind and they run you. But when you love, there is no space and time.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter where they are, you feel their presence.
and that's what you said last in our last interview. If you're infatuated, then you look at what's in them that you have in yourself, and then you embrace that part of yourself and work on that.
When you're infatuated with them, you're too humble to admit what you see in them is inside you. And when you're resentful to that, you're too proud to admit what you see inside them is inside you. But when you love them, you don't have the pride or the self-righteousness or the humbleness that way. You just see eye to eye in their relationship because you understand and have a respect for their unique values. If you can't respect them for what they're dedicated to, you're not ready for a relationship with them because that's who they are. You got to love them for who they are, not for what you fantasize that you're going to make them, and punish them until they get there.
Yeah. This interview was actually sponsored by Gaia Soulmates. Gaia Soulmates is a wonderful website for spiritual singles to meet each other. I invite you to visit their website here on the screen. And there's many absolutely insightful questions on your spirituality, what your orientations, what you love in life. That makes this website, I think personally, a lot more vibrant for people that have spiritual beliefs and orientations. So I'll see you on Gaia Soulmates, and I send you much love from France. Bye, co-creator. I hope you've enjoyed this interview with Dr. John Demartini, and soon some more interviews on Soulmate with Gay Henriks and Sonia Choquette.